Hey guys, I'm back. Okay, so today is a very interesting topic that I want to speak about. And I think this might be a little bit shocking to many people, but I was having this discussion earlier and I came to the conclusion that I should talk about this. The three times in New York City that I was almost kidnapped. Yes, it did occur. Yes, it is real. I am not making this up. And I'm going to tell you about it. Okay. So the first time that I was almost kidnapped was this came about. I'm not going to mention certain names. Okay. Um, certain names, but I'm going to give you enough information that you need to get so you know what I think about it so that you can better protect yourself in the 21st century against 21st century enemies. Okay, so the first time it occurred was when I parted with someone that I was working with at the time, and I came across this Jewish guy, and he was basically asking me, like, what are you doing with this person? You need to get away from this person. Okay, short disclaimer. You guys know what they do to my video whenever I speak about certain topics. You know that the two-legged snakes intercept my video and yada, 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 yada. But keep watching because this information is very important, right? Anyway, so I separated from that person, and within a week, actually, it was more like less than a week, I was walking down the street. If anyone knows New York City, they know 56th Street. There's a restaurant called Rue 56. This restaurant had nothing to do with it. I was just nothing to do with this. I was just on that street where that restaurant was. Okay. And it was late at night. I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I had just left someone and I was gonna go take a taxi cab to go home. And as I was walking down the street, literally, this is long before I knew about implants and synthetic telepathy and ground to satellite tracking systems and satellite to ground tracking systems and neural networks, remote neural monitoring, body area controllers, body area networks, wireless body area networks, wireless body area controllers, and all the whole host of technology that I mentioned in my previous video about 21st century enemies. Okay, see that video because that video will give you a lot of ground information as to what I'm going into now. Okay, to get on with it. So I was walking. Oh, P.S. I'm going to make this video short because I have to run out soon. So anyway, so I was walking down 50. I was walking up, sorry, to 56th Street. Sorry, I wasn't on 56th Street yet. I was walking up to 56th Street. And I saw this white van, those white utility vans that, like they could be any kind of van, and usually people who like work in like construction or something like that would have a van like this or something. Um, anyway, so I was walking up to 56th Street and I saw, and the streets at that time in that particular area of Manhattan it was dead. Okay. So there were literally like no cars on the street. No one was on that street. It was like dead. Okay. And I saw this white van slowly pull up alongside me. And it was slowly pulling up alongside me. And I turned and I looked and I said, but that's ironic. Why would a van like that be, on the street this late? And I looked inside of the van and I saw two people inside of the van. In the driver's seat was an Italian looking guy, and in the passenger seat was this really, really young looking African guy. He was not Black American, he was definitely Black African. Okay. Anyway, so I looked at the two of them and I was just like, okay. I was like, but this is kind of weird. Why would this, Anyway, so I kept on walking, because I'm thinking, I'm in New York, I'm in like a public place. The thought never crossed my mind. So I kept on walking as the van was slowly pulling up alongside me. I heard a voice say, literally, long before I discovered about this is years ago. This is like 2007, I believe. This is before I discovered anything about these body area controllers and the things they can do and how they track you using this whole system. I literally heard a voice behind me say, turn around now. And as I turned around, That guy that I saw sitting in the passenger seat was behind me, and the van doors, it was double doors because it's one of those like, you know the kind of vans I'm talking about. The double doors were open, and his hands was literally like this, about to grab me and throw me in the back of this van. And I bolted down to 56th Street because 56th Street ran like that. And I was walking up like this, right? Perpendicular, right? And I literally like ran to 56th Street because this is a desolate area. No one was on the street. There were no cars. And out of nowhere, this taxi cab comes speeding down the street, and I jump in the taxi cab and I tell the taxi cab driver, like, speed off as fast as you can, you know? And I was like, I think there's like a man in a van like following me. Anyway, so I get to where I was going, and I said to myself, I said, you know what? Don't get off. Don't get off where you live, just in case, whatever, I don't know, they follow you home or whatever, I don't know what was going on. I said, don't get off where you live. So I told the taxi cab driver, I said, listen, the area that the taxi cab dropped me off in, it was in a high, even though it was that late, there was a lot of people outside. People were like on the streets. I was like, you know what? I said, this is a safe place to be, right? So I said, drop me off here, because I didn't want the taxi cab driver to drop me off home, because I didn't know if we lost them, where they were. I didn't know. So he dropped me off. And as I was walking, I saw two police officers, and I ran up to the police officers and I told them, I said, hey, look, I was almost kidnapped in Manhattan. And the police officers were like, okay, like, what, how? And I told them how. They said, did you get the license plate? I said, no. I literally ran down the street and a cab came out of nowhere, and I jumped in the cab, and I don't know where they are. I don't know if I lost them. I don't know if they're like, I don't know. The two police officers reacted by laughing at me. So in my mind, I was thinking, fuck, I can't go to, excuse my language. I was thinking, boop. I was like, I can't go to the police station. They're going to think I'm nuts. Right? So I called up a friend, and I told the friend what happened. And immediately the friend says to me, do you think it has anything to do with this woman? And I said, well, the timing is ridiculous. It never happened to me before. I was like, this has never happened to me before. Actually, take that back. It did happen to me before. It happened to me in Spain. Make that 4 times. Okay. At the time, I didn't remember the one in Spain, but the one in Spain is totally different from this. I'll explain the one in Spain in a second. Anyway, so I told her, I said, well, this didn't happen to me before. And she's like, So she says to me, she said, look, be very careful, pay attention to your surroundings. And she was just like, let me know where you are at all times. Okay. The second time, and I'm going to tell you about the one time in Spain that I just remembered. And that one, I think it's totally different. I don't think it had anything to do with these networks. I don't know what that was about, but that one was just fucking crazy. Okay, so that was the first time. Then the other time, now my memory just totally blacked out about the other time. Anyway, I'll tell you the one that happened the most recently, which was last year. And this was what I call medical kidnapping. Okay, so I had all my paperwork from my neurologist. I got all my paperwork from my medical doctors. I had all this paperwork because of these body area controllers, I was suffering like severe electroshock to the left hemisphere of my brain. So much so, it was paralyzing the left side of my face, okay? That is why you got to go look at my other videos about what I think you should research doing. I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm not giving you any medical script. I'm just telling you what worked for me, okay? Go look at my videos on my detox protocol, okay? Literally, this left side of my face was like literally like this, okay? Because they were electroshocking me inside of my own body, literally. And I showed you in the video how I began to reverse all of that. So much so that my medical doctor said, you have the onset of neurodegenerative disease. I said, screw that shit. All of this is technology. I'm not buying it. Anyway, so it was to the point where I was literally becoming debilitated and I couldn't even walk. I was in such severe pain because I was literally being electrocuted from these fucking computer systems in my body. So I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I said, you know what? I'm going to find the best neurological hospital, and I'm going to go to the hospital. I'm going to show them all the medical paperwork, and I'm going to go see an expert neurologist to give me a CAT scan, see whatever. So I get in there. And of course, the whole thing was like, they put me in front of a psychiatrist instead of a doctor. I showed him all my paperwork, and he decides not to look at my paperwork. He decides to classify me as insane. Side note, that is a couple months later, that's when I learned, listen to the advice I'm giving you, that is when I learned that in American medicine, okay, pain is not recognized. Okay, pain can be classified as a thing of the mind, making the person fall under the category of psychiatry instead of getting medical help. Okay, so be aware of this. When you go and you speak to doctors about pain, if it's not a doctor who understands and recognizes pain, they're going to classify you as nuts. Okay, so be aware of that. So they immediately classified me as nuts. Okay, so what ended up happening in this hospital was I said, look, I kept pressuring them like every couple of minutes. I said, I've been in here since 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. I haven't seen a neurologist. Are you going to get me to see a neurologist? So anyway, I got tired and I went to go sleep. And when I woke up, I saw 2 police officers and this nurse. And the police officers, they signaled to the nurse like that. And they said, that one. So I was just like, yeah, probably these, I just said to myself, these perps, not thinking what they were planning on doing. Long story short is that the nurse says to me, come, you must be so tired. Come and take a rest. So they put me in a room and they let me go to sleep. When I woke up, she said, great, we're going to take you to go see a neurologist. So they're pulling me on the stretcher. And as I look up, I see emergency psychiatric unit. So I look at the nurse and I'm like, but I am not insane. And that's when 2 hospital police officers literally jump out of the room. I mean, this was like a movie. They jumped out of the room, picked me up like this off the stretcher, and literally threw me like a sack of potatoes into the emergency psychiatric unit of one of the major hospitals on the eastern border. Locked the door behind me and said to me, you are never getting out of here. And now I remember the second time that it happened. That was another instance. Boy, was that a lesson. Then the other time that I remembered when I was almost kidnapped, I was working, and when I was coming home, I recognized on the train, I was like, you know how when you do your routine, you can almost instinctively tell when there's someone new to that particular routine. So I know my train routine, that I know that at certain times, certain people would be on that train. You understand? And a certain kind of people would be on that train going in whatever direction, whatever routine you take, whether it's your car routine, whether it's your whatever kind of routine you have, you know that there are people who's going to be in that place around that time. So I was moving from Manhattan and I was going into another borough. And I recognized, I said to myself, I said, these are the same guys that I saw a couple hours earlier. I was like, what are they doing on the train going in this direction? And I said to myself, I said, okay, just, keep it calm, keep your eyes on them. But before I got off on my stop, again, I heard a voice say, whatever you do not get off on this particular stop. So I said to myself, I said, that's crazy. I said, okay, so let me just take another route. So I decided to take another route and I got off on that stop. Sure enough, when I got out at the stop, they got off as well. I said, okay, now I know I'm not making this up because they do not live in this neighborhood. So I said to myself, I said, okay, not that it's not a bad neighborhood, but I just know the people who live in that neighborhood. And I know the people who get off on that stop because that's part of my routine. So anyway, I'll make this video quick because I got to get out of here. So I run up the stairs and they're behind me. To my surprise, as soon as I get out the train door, as soon as I walk out the train door, 2 police officers walk up to me. I heard a voice say before I went to go speak, pull up to the subway stop. Before I walk up to them, because I was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? I heard a voice say very clearly, whatever you do not walk. It was like, stay put. I was like, okay. And I'm saying to myself, what is this voice that's guiding me? So, us, religious folks, oh my God, it's the voice of an angel. Meanwhile, it's technology. It's technology. Okay. So I said to myself, I said, you know what? Let me go speak to these police officers. So I ran up to the police officers because these two guys were behind me. I ran up to the police officer and said, look, officers, I said, there's these two guys that are following me from Manhattan. I know they're following me from Manhattan. So as soon as I said that, the guys ran back down into the subway, and the police officers, obviously they couldn't really arrest them. So the police officer said to me, he said, look, calm down. How do you get home? And I told them, he said, okay, listen, get in the back of our van, get in the back of our car, and we'll take you home. That's another lesson, guys. Not all police officers are enemies, okay? Not all police officers are your enemies, okay? Anyway, so these two police officers were very, very nice. I got into the back of the police car and they dropped me all the way home. And before I got out, they said to me, they said, listen, young lady, this is New York City. Be very goddamn careful in this city. Those were the 3 times I remembered. And then I forgot the 4th time, which was in Spain. I was in Spain and I was in Barcelona on Porto Olímpico. Okay, if any of you have ever traveled and been to Barcelona, you would know Porto Olímpico, right? So I was in Porto Olímpico in Barcelona. And I was walking on the port to go meet my friend. And I was walking alongside the beach. This is a high traffic area. I mean, there are thousands of people. And this guy pulls up in his car and he starts like honking his horn, And I just thought, okay, it's the Mediterranean, Mediterranean kind of people, they're hot-blooded, they're this, they're that. And he was like, like coming to his car. And I was like, are you nuts? So I was just like, yeah, whatever. So I kept on walking. So he kept on following me and just honking his horn even more and more and more aggressive. And I'm just like, is this guy crazy? I'm like, it's broad daylight. And I could literally see that he was getting more and more aggressive. So I thought, I was like, maybe he thinks I'm a prostitute or something, I don't know. So I was just like, just ignore him. I mean, literally, I walked for about maybe 800 meters and the guy was still there. And he was getting more and more infuriated that I wouldn't get into his car. Finally, I said to myself, I need to get off the port. And I literally ran off the port, which is like the sidewalk. Okay. So you have the boardwalk, the sidewalk, the boardwalk, and the beach. So I literally like dodged through the crowd, ran on the beach, and went and found my friend, and I told him what happened, and he was like, Renetta, yeah, you got to be careful, These kinds of people exist. Okay, why am I telling you this story? What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is this. All of these things happened to me, before I understood about this technology. And those of you who have been following my story, you know that I have body area networks inside of me. And those of you who have actually done your research on body area networks and body area controllers and implants and nanotech and all this other bullshit that they put inside of people, you know that they can use this stuff to monitor and track you. Now, there are different kinds of monitoring and there's different kinds of tracking. Okay, so some people, it can be used to medically track them and traffic them. Okay, so there's a medical trafficking component. Some people, it can be used for body snatchers. Okay, which is the people who kidnap people, murder them, sell off their organs. And some of it can be used for people who are sex traffickers. Okay, either way, this shit should not be in the human body. Okay, this shit should not be in the human body because the propensity to kidnap someone when no one is there using satellite systems, because this is how it works. They don't just implant you. They implant you. They use satellite systems to monitor and track you. They can also monitor and track the person the frequency that's pinging, and it's actually called a ping, that's pinging out of the person's body. They can track them via cell phone, they could track them via tablet, and they can also track them via computer systems. They could track them through databases. They can track them also remotely, like a remote tracking, whether it's if it's WBANs, which is wireless body area networks. And then I began thinking, and the reason why I made this video, I'll keep it short. The reason why I made this video is because when you think in lieu of the number of people who go missing every year, who literally disappear off the face of the planet, and their families cannot find them. And you hear family members saying they are not this kind of person to just disappear. And when you think about what I'm sharing with you about at least the 3 times, even though it was 4, the 3 times when I was almost kidnapped, and me telling you that I literally heard a voice behind me say, turn around, or a voice behind me say, don't move. When you think about these things, you look at things like kidnapping differently. You look at things like missing persons differently. Then when you listen to the family members of these missing persons, the family members tell you this person is not irresponsible like this to just disappear. Think about these systems in lieu of missing people. When you think about things like in terms of rape, okay, how a person is able to track a person remotely with a computer system. They're able to monitor what's going on around that person to know that, hey, look, there's no one around this person. Okay. Don't you know there are apps that will let you know how far a police officer is from you? Combine that with an app that tells you the closest police officer who is near to the victim. Think about what I'm telling you, people. Think about what I'm telling you. Okay, so let's say this person has these tracking systems inside of them. Okay, depending on the type of tracking they use for, whether it's medical trafficking, whether it's sex trafficking, whether it's body snatchers, whether it's just, rapists. Okay, don't think for 1 second rapists are not using this. And all the other nefarious groups. Now, combine these types of systems with the apps that you can download to track police officers. Okay, you can track where police officers are using certain apps, and it tells you the nearest police officer near to you is, let's say, 10 miles away. Okay, right? And they know that the nearest police officer, the nearest police station is 10 miles away. The nearest police officer is 10 miles away. Okay, and this victim has no clue that they have these wireless body area networks inside of them, and someone is literally monitoring them. Another way they can monitor people, they can monitor you through, when you walk down the street and you look up and you see the police cameras, they can monitor the geolocation and the area around a person by intercepting police cameras and also intercepting traffic light cameras. So the reason why I spoke about this is because this dawned on me. Think about missing children. Think about the numbers of missing children that go missing every year. Guys, this is not normal for millions of people in the United States to go missing every year and they vanish without a trace. This is not normal that little children are not going to disappear from their families, people. Especially if they have brothers and sisters, or they have a parent they love, or they have a cousin they love, or they have a brother they love. Little kids are not going to go missing like that. And then you have to ask yourself, how is it that these people are able to know when is the right time to kidnap these people? Wireless body area networks. These implants that are inside of people, and people don't realize that these implants and these biomedical devices are inside of them, and they're being remotely monitored, tracked, and followed. Okay, so the two-legged snakes are taking over the video. Okay, so that's all I wanted to tell you. This is food for thought. Love you. Like, share, subscribe, share this video. Okay, so be aware of your surroundings. Understand that things like body snatchers, kidnappers, traffickers, all these people work with advanced databases and advanced systems, and people don't just go missing like that. Okay, it's a coordinated effort to know where the person is, know the area around the person, know who's around them if someone is around them, so that they can know the best time when to move in to kidnap a person. Be aware of your surroundings. It can happen to anyone. It can happen at any time. Be strapped, locked, and loaded. And if you're not locked and loaded, make sure you know self-defense. Peace out.